So welcome back to KTN News Center. I want us to focus on matters politics, and Deputy President William Ruto and his allies have hit back at President Uhuru Kenyatta over his sentiments that it was time for other tribes other than Kikuyu and Kalenjins to govern the country. Speaking during a church service in Nairobi, now the leader said those aspiring to be president should be judged on their agenda for the Kenyans and not on their tribal lines. George Maringa reports.
Kuna jamii tu mbili za Kenya ambazo zimetawala, labda ni nafasi ya jamii nyingine pia kutawala.
That was President Uhuru Kenyatta during the funeral service of Mama Hannah Mudavadi in Vihiga, where he sent signals that the choice of his successor ought to be from a different community and not those who have already ruled.
Kama unachoka na familia hii, unachoka na familia hii, sasa ni nafasi sijui ya nani. Bas.
It is that message just a day later that now appears to have elicited a heated banter from his deputy William Ruto and his Tanga allies.
When I supported Uhuru Kenyatta, it was not because of his tribe. It was not because he represented any tribe. It was because we agreed on an agenda.
The pro-Ruto's camp, on the other hand, unhappy over the president's remarks.
Ashukue kiboko na fimbo na rungu awanyoroshe. Sasa rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya kuchukua kiboko na fimbo si kuumiza watu. Na ile nashangaza sisi ni kwamba wale wanaambia rais aumize watu ya nyumbani hawakumuombea, hawakumpatia kura. Wale rais anashauriwa kuumiza ni wale waliombea yeye wakampatia kura akakuwa rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya.
Niulize rais wetu mpendo ambaye tunampenda, ambaye tulimpigia kura sio safari moja, safari tatu. Tumuulize ashike fimbo, anyoroshe hii uchumi irudi mahali Mwai Kibaki alituachia uchumi akimpea hatamu ya uongozi.
We need to build a country which has no tribal kings. And actually we are now 2021. At this age, Kenya should not be talking about tribal kings.
Deputy President William Ruto, who did not attend the Mululu event, reiterated his agenda for the hustler nation.
Haja yetu ni kuhakikisha ya kwamba katika meza mahali mambo ya Kenya inajadiliwa, itazungumzwa mambo ya wale, lakini pia mambo ya wananchi lazima izungumzwe pale. Na hiyo meza lazima itutoshe sisi wote.
The Nairobi gubernatorial race would also take center stage, with the newly launched party UDA picking Margaret Wanjiru to be its flag bearer.
Munatuambia alikuwa nominated na mwenye aliyemunominate ashamkataa. Anasema nilikaso hiyo nomination.
Kura ya governor wa Nairobi, tafadhali msituangushe.
Huyu Margaret Wanjiru ndio candidate wetu ya mahasla ya Nairobi. Na sisi wote tutasimama nyuma yake. Safari hii Nairobi tutainyorosha.
The County Assembly of Nairobi is set to vet Ann Kananu this week. George Maringa, KTN News.
So we've had the political intrigue that played out over the weekend, and I bring in Dennis Anyoka, who's a political analyst, joining us here on a KTN News Center. Good morning, Mr. Anyoka.
Good morning, Brenda.
So now let's begin our conversation with this question that people have been wondering about. What has killed, the political marriage, the bromance between the deputy and the president? Because it's reached a point where now they're, giving out political statements that are not all going well with Kenyans.
I think there has been a systematic fallout between the president and the deputy president over the years following the handshake. In fact, I think the situation got worse after the handshake. I believe it's a disagreement and ideology in terms of how they could have proceeded going forward, because William Ruto anticipated and expected that he was going to have full unopposed support as the next presidential candidate for Jubilee, which I believe he worked very hard to create together with Uhuru Kenyatta. When he realized that it was not going just to be him, it's going to be him, and now Raila Odinga came into the fold, and therefore the political landscape was changing, I believe he became very uncomfortable. And I think worse for both parties. Uhuru Kenyatta did come out strongly to give that assurance that in 2022, is going to give, unequivocal support to William Ruto. And that has gone down to the point that over time, you remember, we were hearing statements from the people like Murade, and other people within Jubilee circles, people who are considered close to the president, saying that they will do everything possible to stop William Ruto from being a Jubilee presidential candidate in 2022.
Right.
And what we are witnessing this week, I think, is the last signs of total fallout. Clearly, you can see that William Ruto has a preferred political party, which is not Jubilee anymore. We have seen members of Jubilee Party warming up to a new political party called UDA, and they have now candidates. We've seen the by-election that happened in Msambweni, and now with these statements, when you hear the president speaking, I think is the very final phase of the fallout.
Right.
Before we see all parties going fully political, before we see each party trying to, galvanize their positions and march to 2022 in as separate parties.
But then now, if you may correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Anyoka, because the president, if I heard him clearly on Saturday, he came out, clearly to say, to tell the deputy president and his allies that I will not support your presidential bid for 2022, because this is what he said. Let me just quote him. This is what he said. Even me, I can stand here and say there are only 2 Kenyan communities that have led. Maybe it's time for other tribes to lead. Kenya has many communities. Wasn't the president indirectly telling the deputy president, don't even think of my support come 2022?
Yeah, I think that is the closest the president has been to directly tell William Ruto that he's not going to support this presidential bid in 2022. And you remember, before this, we have had a lot of media playing and arguments coming out that before 2017, there was this famous statement that the president made that he will have his 10 years, then he will support William Ruto for another 10 years. And that seemed to have the political debt, and those arguments have been in place. And the signs have been there that Uhuru Kenyatta would not support William Ruto in 2022. And I believe those were the factors that fueled the animosity and disagreement politically between William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta. What the president said over the weekend at the burial was a very clear statement that based on the totality of the circumstances, and I believe is the new relationship that exists politically between Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, he wants to give a reason why he will not support William Ruto. And for him, he's saying he believes that there are 2 communities that have led, and I want to believe what Uhuru Kenyatta is referring to is the Kikuyu community and the Kalenjin community. But then,
Mr. Anyoka,
I wanted to think that is the statement.
But then why is it so hard then for the president to crack the whip on his second in command and his lieutenants, especially owing to the fact that it's in public domain and it's in the open? They've decided to start a UDA party going against the party, agenda for Jubilee. They're still Jubilee members, and at the same time, they're opening another party. We've seen them attacking the president in open. The deputy president over the weekend on Sunday came out openly also to, talk at the president. So why can't he crack the whip as the president of the Republic of Kenya and also as the Jubilee party leader?
I think the president has done everything he ought to do as of now to frustrate William Ruto. You remember the last year, the president had a swipe in, positions in our parliament, in the Senate, in the National Assembly. There were people who were sacked from the executive. Some parastatal heads were sent home, and all of them appeared to be close friends to William Ruto. So in terms of what the president can do without affecting his position and power, I believe the president has already done that. What the president might finally do, and it's not as a president, in fact, as the party leader for Jubilee, perhaps they will need to send away those people who are Jubilee members who have now warmed up to a different political party. But that is a very difficult thing. It does not happen in Kenya. For the reason that first,
Mr. Anyoka,
these people have not resigned from Jubilee as a party. Secondly, even if they were to be chased away from Jubilee party, then we will have legal battle that will arise, the weakening of the Jubilee power within the assembly. All these will be considerations that the party, the president in his capacity as the leader of the Jubilee party will have to take into account before he cracks the whip politically.
Right.
But in terms of realignment, in terms of weakening the power, I believe President Uhuru Kenyatta has already done that in terms of reorganizing the cabinet, in terms of leadership of the houses. The likes of Murkomen were sent away, and the people who were considered close, the Kangata and the rest were brought on board. So there's so little that the president can do now politically, other than perhaps come out in his frustration, as he has done now.
But then it looks like it's gloves off for the DP. It's like bring it on and you know, we'll face each other at the ballot. And, you know, over the weekend, the president is saying, I'm in charge, I'm firmly in charge of this country. But are we seeing him really in charge of Jubilee Party? Because the reason as to I'm asking that question, it's because let's have a look at Msambweni by-election. So Jubilee was supporting the ODM party, the handshake, you know, it was known as the handshake candidate. And then the Deputy President, William Ruto, and his lieutenants comes in and say, we are supporting an independent candidate indirectly. Then now, yesterday, the Deputy President, William Ruto, tells Nairobians, vote for Bishop Margaret Wanjiru, still going against the Jubilee decision to have their own candidate for that seat. Isn't the president, is the president really in charge of his own party as much as he's saying that he's in charge of the leadership of the country?
Brenda, I believe that if somebody is in office or in a position of power or authority, and he has to keep reminding people that I'm the one who is in this position, it means that by conduct, people cannot tell that he's in charge. And I believe that is why you're asking that question. Everybody wonders, how can you be in charge when everything seems to point a different way? He's clearly not in charge. You are the party leader for Jubilee Party, and everybody's out there saying everything they will say. There's no unity. So you keep telling people you are in charge, but what they are seeing, what we are witnessing are different things. Now you can see that the deputy party leader, William Ruto, is clearly on this particular occasion, especially Nairobi gubernatorial contest, he is supporting a candidate of a different political party. Mombasa could have been, Msambweni could have been different because Jubilee did not have a candidate in that particular by-election. But there was a handshake candidate which Jubilee ought to have supported. William Ruto as a person may choose not to support that, and it is not strictly going against the code of conduct, the code of ethics for the party itself.
But Anyoka, aren't they supposed to be speaking in one?
Nairobi where you have a candidate as a party.
Aren't they supposed to be speaking in you know, reading from the same page?
Sorry, I missed you on that.
I'm asking because you're saying that, you know, it's okay for the DP to have indirectly supported an independent candidate in Msambweni, and then I was asking you, but isn't the Deputy President and the Jubilee Party at large supposed to be reading from one page?
Ordinarily, yes, that is what should happen. They should be reading from the same script. They should be working together as a party. But we have not witnessed that. So you could argue rightly that as a party, we didn't have a candidate. And I do not have to agree with, because there was no party resolution. There was no national delegates conference that sat, or top organ decision, where that decision was made that we cannot be able to front a candidate. That was a few leaders who made that decision, and William Ruto made a decision and said, fine, I will respect your view and you can support the candidate you want, and I will support my own candidate. That is okay when you don't have a candidate as a party. But in a case like in Nairobi, when you have a candidate, whether you agree with the candidate or not, or you believe the candidate is a strong candidate or not, you ought to go with the party and support this candidate the party has presented, which is not the case for Nairobi.
All right.
Which is what we are witnessing is very different. It's that the Deputy President has openly indicated, though he is not a member of UDA as of now,
all right,
but he has clearly indicated that the choice for the Hustler team, where he is the de facto leader of the Hustler brigade, is Margaret Wanjiru, which clearly shows that he is not going to support a Jubilee candidate if Jubilee was to field any particular candidate. But he seems not to be interested. He's actually mark timing and waiting for the time that he will exit from Jubilee and join and UDA and perhaps be the presidential flag bearer for that particular party.
So why then can't the deputy president just walk out of this marriage, this political marriage that is working? Why is he afraid of walking out?
Brenda, Ruto walked out of Jubilee a long time ago. By the time he's physically
I mean, by officially,
it's just that he's waiting for.
By officially, you know, saying, calling for a press briefing and saying, you know, by officially calling for a press briefing, addressing the nation and saying, I have officially, you know, left Jubilee Party. Of course, this will have, you know, an adverse effect on his leadership as the deputy president. So my question is, why can't he officially walk out of Jubilee Party? Because the marriage is not working. Why is he afraid?
It's called convenience within the political matrix. What is the most convenient thing to do as William Ruto? He can leave now. Then he will have 18 months of fighting with government and looking like he's struggling. But he can stay as he's staying. He's not helping Jubilee. I do not think he has any interest in the Jubilee headquarters. I mean, in Pangani. He's not actively participating in Jubilee activities, but is considered a member of Jubilee, and therefore he will have his access to particular information, which politically is convenient to him, and is for all practical reasons just running his own show. He's having now a new political party, which is running with his friends who are there. In fact, all the friends, all the elected members of parliament who appear to be close to UDA are already members of other political parties, not necessarily Jubilee. We have seen a few people who are from other political parties, but they appear to be in the inner circle and leadership of UDA.
All right.
Yet they have not exited. So it is a question of political convenience, which they will not want to lose at this point. They will want, William Ruto will want to take the greatest political credit, political benefit that can arise, to the point that it's practically impossible for him to remain a member of Jubilee Party.
So all this, Mr. Anyoka, what you're trying to tell us is it's working for the advantage of the DP to be seen like he's politically attacked by the president and also by, you know, political leaders who are supporting the president.
Yes, yes, yes. Everything, and if you realize that in the recent times, the deputy president is not even coming out fighting, especially after the president has said what he has said. His statements seem calm, they seem very patriotic, and he has let other people talk on his behalf and say the message he could have so much wanted to speak, which means he has put his troop together, he's getting all the credit or the advantage. He was seen as the person who was being fought to leave Jubilee, so he cannot be faulted to have exited. If he will leave finally, if they push him away, he will leave with a lot of, you know, people and a lot of support from those who were initially in Jubilee circles.
All right. So now we are seeing, you know, this political debate moving from the dynasties, and that has always been, you know, the political statements that the DP has always been making and some of his lieutenants. But then over the weekend, we're seeing it now shift to politics of tribes. And hence you heard the president say that this country has always been ruled by two tribes, Kikuyu and the Kalenjins. But then the deputy president comes in and says, when I supported you for your presidency, for your presidential ambition, it wasn't based on the fact that you're a Kikuyu. I supported you because on the basis of the agenda that we had for the country.
I think the president's remarks over the two tribes is a bit unfortunate. Because firstly, even if we were to analyze the president's statement alone, we do not have the Kalenjin tribe. We have the Maasais, we have the Kipsigis, we have the Tugen, we have the Nandi, and the several tribes, sub-tribes within these form the Kalenjin. So ideally, we do not have the Kalenjin tribe. Just like when people talk about Mount Kenya, we don't have Mount Kenya as a tribe. We have Kikuyus, we have the Meru, we have the Embu, and the various tribes that are therein. So he first gets it wrong, because if it's about tribe, then Moi and William Ruto don't share the same tribe. They don't share the same sub-tribe. They come from different sub-tribes. But most importantly, the feeling that one person, there's a tribe that has been in power, I think is misleading and wrong. I know that Kenya is heavily tribal. I mean, we are tribal in every sense. But there's a way we could look at this positively, not to block other people from realizing their own dreams. I believe if anybody was to look at the Constitution, the concept of regional and balance is embedded in the Constitution. Why was it put in the Constitution? It's because there was a feeling that you could take leadership to one area, and if you're a president from the Kikuyu community, you'll want to do appointments from these particular people, so that you find in leadership, the other regions do not have the benefit of also sharing in the seat where decisions for the nation are being made. So that has already been taken into account, and we need only, as a president, he has the opportunity to ensure that this actually works. But to come out and politically, which is, I want to take that purely as a political statement the president made, which was quite unfortunate, try to present a thinking that we should not consider the next good candidate who might, unfortunately, if I use the president's formula, could be a Kikuyu.
All right.
I think it's unfortunate. If he's telling Kenyans that we cannot elect a very good candidate, presidential candidate, who could have come from, the Tugen community, then it's unfortunate. But we need to consider that this governance needs to have a reflection of the face of Kenya. That we have said. But the president, the way he brought it out, I think it changes the value and the meaning of those beautiful thoughts.
All right. So for the weekend, Anyoka, we had the president, lecturing some political leaders in the country were very vocal, telling them, do not lecture me on how I need to govern this country. I'm in charge. But then let's look at, the Senate Majority Whip, that is Irungu Kang'ata's letter to the president. It talks about his boldness. What does this say about, Kang'ata's, threat to probably the political statements he was making to also Ruto's supporters in terms of that letter that he sent to the president, his boldness? Is there some political play, indirect political plays that we are seeing? And what do we need to expect?
I think in my view, Kang'ata is a very senior member of the Jubilee team, and is a leader within the Jubilee circles, one of the top leaders. If he needed to tell the president what he said in the letter, he could do it discreetly, and we will not get to know. He did not need to do a letter which will finally leak into the general public in the manner that he did. I think for me, there is a game of sending communication that this BBI business is not as popular as people think. People, either having read or having listened, are not so keen on being told to do constitutional amendments through the BBIs. We have other major problems. And the marriage between Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga through the BBI may not finally push through. And I think that is the message Kang'ata and some of the people will want to test. I say this because you realize that top leadership of Jubilee are not, bashing Kang'ata for any reason. They're not pushing him around. They're not even accusing him of anything wrong. The issue has died. Quietly, they're quiet. Their statements could be coming to differently, but they're not attacking Kang'ata directly. So it tells you that this may not actually be Kang'ata's idea alone. And I do not think such level of information can just leak carelessly as it did. It might be a calculated ploy to ensure this information reaches out, the political temperatures are tested. If for any reason the BBI collapses, it is not the fault of Uhuru Kenyatta.
So who are the
this
people
has collapsed.
Because from a statement you're saying, it might not only be Kang'ata who's talking about that letter, that he says that letter is authentic and he did not give it to the media. So who are the people behind Kang'ata who are telling Raila Odinga directly through the letter that do not expect the BBI to sail through? And should Raila Odinga be a worried man at this time?
I may not tell you with certainty who are the people behind it, but my strong feeling is it is not Kang'ata as a person. This was not a personal decision that started and ended with Irungu Kang'ata. It's a decision that has so many people within the Jubilee circles, and they used Kang'ata to test the waters in the manner that they did. But Raila Odinga, as a man who has weathered many storms, he's been around for a long time. He has been into all these political circles and problems. I believe he will come out of it. I believe that he was anticipating that it's possible that the BBI process may not go all the way to the end. And if he didn't have a plan B on how to get out of it, then I think he will have lost his political charisma and the stamina. He should be able to come out of this whichever way it goes.
So how will he come out of it? Because so far we know, I think as of yesterday, if I'm not wrong, the IEBC chairperson Ofula Chebukati was saying that so far about 544,000 plus signatures have been verified. The exercise is still continuing. So now what would be the plan B for Raila Odinga if this doesn't go, if it doesn't work as expected and owing to the letter that, you know, Honorable Kangata sent to the president?
In politics, Brenda, there are no permanent friends or enemies. I am very sure that Raila Odinga will get back to the drawing table because his political party, ODM, is not as torn and in shambles as Jubilee could be. Jubilee has been torn right in the middle. So I want to believe that in the event that his plan through BBI is not going to go through, he's going to go back, create a few friends. He's still seen as a statesman who wishes the best for the country, using his old tactics and his good name that he had created before. He might want to realign himself and get a fresh team going forward in 2022. Because even now, within the entire BBI structure and having Uhuru on board in his side, I believe strongly that it's meant to galvanize his support, make him stronger politically so that going forward in 2022, if he is going to vie, or if any candidate supported through that alliance is going to vie, then they can be guaranteed of a win, because then there will be a bit, according to Raila Odinga and how I see it, perhaps Central Kenya, so much of it will support now the alliance, and the political, the constituency that Raila Odinga commands is still intact. So talk about the Luo Nyanza, talk about some part of Western, a larger part of Western, and the areas in Kisii where he gets support, and in the coastal region, he believes that he still has the same level of support. And they can be able to use it. Now, in addition to what the president or his people will bring on board, then either Raila Odinga will become president or whoever they'll support will become president. So if that does not work, then he will realign himself to a new team.
All right, I have only 2 minutes to bring this conversation to an end, so I'll give you a minute just to tell me, what do we need to expect in the coming days, the politics of 2022, and who's being played here? Is it Raila Odinga? Is it the deputy president?
I think in the coming days, we will see a lot of politics. We'll see heavy, bare-knuckle politics and statements coming from the leaders because of frustration from all sides. Now, the deputy president will clearly know that he's not going to be supported. Uhuru Kenyatta will just discover he's not in charge and he has to redo, to go back to the drawing board and see what he's able to do. Raila Odinga is going to just realize that this BBI business may not deliver what he wanted. So with all that frustration, we'll see new alliances, new realignments, and new process. I do not know. I can't prophesize who will be at the lows, in totality at the end of it all. Probably we wait and see.
All right, probably wait and see. Thank you so much, Dennis Anyoka, political analyst, talking to us about the political intrigue that played over the weekend and what we need to expect as the country looks towards the 2022 general elections. But then, also just remind you as I take this commercial break about that press briefing by the Senate Majority Leader Irungu Kangata over his letter to the President. He's expected to address members of the press about that. So we'll give you that live coverage here on KTN News. But for now, a short commercial break.
This is KTN News.